The Astros had Fan Fest over the weekend. A bunch of the players were there. Dusty Baker was there. All three of the Astros assistant GMs were there. And their actual GM, who doesn't have the title but sure sounds like a GM, Jeff Bagwell, was there. And he met with the media. And it's worth noting, before we play some of Jeff Bagwell's answers, Jeff Bagwell spoke on behalf of the organization. The three assistant GMs were all asked to speak, and they all declined to speak to the media. So Jeff Bagwell remains the sounding piece, the voice of this organization right now. And when he speaks, as you'll hear from him, he still sounds like the Astros general manager.
In the midst of the Astros interviewing three different guys to be the general manager, including the mashed potatoes guy, Bob Evans.
And José Abreu was there, and he spoke through a translator. And I'm going to read you a quote here. Daniel Gotera from KHOU tweeted this out. This was José Abreu on leaving the White Sox. Quote, I'm very grateful for the White Sox organization. They gave me the opportunity to play in the big leagues for 9 years. In life, it's all about a process. My process with the White Sox ended, and luckily, I'm now starting a new process on which I chose my agent. My family chose to be here. I have to give thanks to Jim Crane and Jeff Bagwell that gave us the opportunity to be part of this organization. The players here, their disposition is something pretty great and very much appreciated. I don't really care about him leaving the White Sox. I just want to bring up that the new Astros first baseman, the biggest move this franchise made in the offseason, he mentions the owner and Jeff Bagwell. So what does that tell you about who's running the Astros organization right now?
Shout out to Jeff Bagwell then. If he helped get this deal done, he gets an A+.
Good job, Bagwell.
For the job that he's done as this team's GM.
No issue with it, but I laugh when people are like, Bagwell's not really calling the shots, or he doesn't actually want to be the GM, or, he's just doing it right now, and, they have a master plan in place. The more information we get on this, the more public appearances Jeff Bagwell makes where he speaks on behalf of the team and sounds like a GM, the more I believe whoever they hire is actually going to be reporting to Jeff Bagwell, who then reports to Jim Crane.
Well, we're getting close to the end of January, and a couple of months ago, Jim Crane said he'd like to have a GM in place by the end of January. And Bob Nightingale had a big insider piece that came out over the weekend that talked about the Astros maybe closing in on a candidate or two for their GM search. So it feels like we could get some news this week, but yeah, Jeff Bagwell, I think all three of us were on this relatively early, and I think most Astros fans were as well, that Jeff Bagwell had a pretty big say in what was going on with the Astros organization. He spoke in way more than anybody else besides Jim Crane throughout the course of this offseason. So we knew, we talked about it, Jake, you were on this very early, that Jeff Bagwell had a pretty big role in what the Astros did at the trade deadline mid-season last year. And ever since then, it feels like he's gotten an increased role within the organization. And even if they do bring in a GM, it feels like Baggy is always going to be a part of what decisions are made down there. So, hey, if he's responsible for bringing in one of the best first basemen in all of baseball, I'm okay with it. I still hope the Astros do bring in a more qualified GM, and some of the people they are talking to are more qualified to be a GM than Jeff Bagwell is. But, Jake, I think your hunch is right. I don't think Baggy's going anywhere. He's still going to be a part of the decision-making process for the Houston Astros.
And this was Jeff Bagwell at FanFest over the weekend. He was asked if he expects Michael Brantley to be ready for opening day.
I do. It's his guide arm and his hitting. It's not his throwing shoulder, so he should be fine.
Okay, so you hear that, and then Dusty Baker is asked about the comments that Michael Brantley is going to be ready to go, and Dusty Baker said that he wasn't sure if Brantley was even hitting yet or if he'll be ready for opening day.
Yeah, this is not the first time Dusty and the de facto GM have disagreed. You remember, Jeff Bagwell has very different expectations for Yordan Alvarez in the outfield than Dusty Baker does. Now, Jeff Bagwell has very different expectations for Michael Brantley's availability than the manager does. Do these guys talk to each other?
No, they don't. And every time Dusty talks about Brantley, I just assume the worst, because this is the same Astros manager who said last year that Michael Brantley did not have a setback. He didn't have a go forward. He never played again. He was done. Now, it didn't cost him because this team is so damn good in spite of some of the quirkiness that's going on in the front office and with the manager that they were able to overcome it. But, this is just typical Astros with the miscommunication or just the organization seemingly not being on the right page.
Yeah, they do everything right except for injuries. They've screwed this thing up time and time again. And look, we don't need Michael Brantley back by opening day. The Astros have more than enough talent to not only tread water, but to swim incredibly well if Brantley has to miss some time. The hope is that this isn't a Lance McCullers or a Jake Myers situation. Like, if it is, I'm going to be upset. If Michael Brantley has to miss a significant chunk of the season, I'll be a little disappointed that they didn't add somebody else as an insurance policy in free agency. And I guess they still could, but it sure feels like the Astros are pretty much done from a transactional standpoint this offseason. Hopefully, Jeff Bagwell was right. Hopefully, Michael Brantley will be ready by close to opening day. Hopefully, he is hitting again and doing things that can get him ready for spring training, or if not spring training, at least by the first game of the season. But, yeah, this is weird that this just keeps happening. It doesn't matter who the GM seemingly is. Somehow, some way, this team cannot get on the same page in regards to injury timelines.
Like Dusty and Jeff Bagwell not have each other's numbers? You could fix that pretty quick. You just give one of the guy the other guy's number, and they can text each other.
Oh, you can't text on a landline, and that's all Dusty has.
That's probably true.
So, still's got the rotary phone, I believe, in his place.
He's dialing it.
Uh-huh.
It's great, spinning it around.
Yep.
Dusty was at the Cougar game yesterday watching UH lose the Temple. And Andrew Carlson was also there, so he's now 0-2 and watching the Cougars in person. How many losses do the Cougars have this year?
It'd be 2.
That'd be 2. I think I know why. Here's more from Jeff
God,
Bagwell.
Not even going to let AC defend himself
This
there.
is Jeff.
Toss it straight to audio. Just
This is Jeff Bagwell on the potential for Yuli Gurriel to return to the Astros.
I mean, there's nobody that loves Yuli more than us. Myself, Jim, Dusty, everybody is just trying to find the right fit for the club. But he's a huge part of our success here, so we'll continue to monitor that situation.
What are the chances he's back here?
I don't know. I don't have one. It kind of just depends how the rest of this offseason goes. You know, everything gets done quickly this year in baseball pretty much. A lot of the big names are off the market. But we're just kind of waiting to see how that turns out, what we do with our roster, and go from there.
Let's be real. If they wanted Yuli back, he'd be back by now, no?
What's left in the offseason is going to play out that the Astros need Yuli Gurriel, General Manager Jeff Bagwell.
Somebody gets hurt in like a boating accident. Somebody gets hurt playing basketball. Like, that's the type of thing that would get Yuli back here at this rate. And they haven't brought him back yet. I don't think Yuli Gurriel is on this team unless he's willing to take a huge pay cut, and maybe he will if this continues, but I'd be surprised if he's on their team.
Yeah, reports out there that they offered Yuli a 1-year deal worth less than $10 million to kind of be a utility player. And I think the decision Yuli Gurriel has to make is, well, does he want to stay here in Houston and be a part of a contending team and try to win another World Series, or does he want to play every day? Because there's no opportunity for him to play every day. The Astros upgraded at first base with José Abreu. There's no obvious fit for Yuli Gurriel to be an everyday player in this lineup. Now, he'd still get playing time because Days Off Dusty is still the manager, so he'd still platoon and get to play a couple of different positions. But, you know, Cody, these guys are competitive. They want to play every day, and Yuli could probably get a longer and bigger contract somewhere else. I think the ball is in his court right now. The Astros say that nobody loves him more than us. If you really loved him, you'd give him a bigger deal to keep him back. I'm not saying they should. I'm okay if he does leave, but I would understand him leaving because it doesn't feel like the Astros can bring as much to the table as some of the other teams out there can.
Yuli probably should have taken that deal. I don't know if there's a realistically long-term commitment from any team for Yuli Gurriel out there. I think most he's signing a 1-year deal with somebody. And then maybe that pops up when somebody has an injury or they get to spring training. They're like, oh, crap, our first baseman's not any good. Let's go get that guy. He won a batting title a couple of years ago, but the guy's not a good baseball player anymore. Like, I mean, he's a serviceable baseball player, but he's not real good. Okay, so you just don't have to have Yuli Gurriel back. And to me, the way Bagwell talked about him, he basically said Yuli's not coming back in about the nicest way he could say it without saying it.
Yeah.
Yuli's not coming back.
Agreed.